Our next speaker is again someone we already seen, a very prominent person, and giving us a very, having given us, I must say, a very different view on what actually um, um, confidentiality means. Emilio Mordini, thank you so much for having you here. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon to everybody. Mm, I'm a psychiatrist by background, so you will forgive me if I'm going to mix a bit technology issues with human factors. Okay. Is this trust? What is the difference between trusting and gambling? That gentleman was trusting or was gambling? If you look at the standard, the dictionary definition of trust, you cannot understand very well the difference between trust and gambling. The Webster definition is trust as reliance on character, ability, strength, truth of something or someone, or dependence on the future. You could understand better what is trust if you look more in depth at the etymology. The word trust in English comes from an original Proto-Germanic root which is the same root of truth. As a matter of fact, in Proto-Germanic and then in English, the idea, the notion of trust is intertwined with the notion of truth. So you trust that something is truth. You trust in something because it is truth. It is true. And you trust that something is true. In, because, that. Three kinds of trust. All the three related to truth. And honesty, consequently. Always in English, we have another word which is a Latin origin, which is faith. In English, has a bit different nuances in comparison to trust. But in the Latin language, it meant trust as the current term trust. And if you go more in depth and you look at the origin of the word fides, the Latin fides, you see that it is related to a word which described animal sacrifices. The animal sacrifices that you did when you made an agreement with God, an oath, or with another person, other people, other group of people, other communities. What was the meaning of the animal sacrifice in that context? The meaning was, as we killed and chopped this animal, those among us who is going to break the agreement, the contract, not to respect the contract, should be killed in the same way. This is a terrible oath, a terrible agreement. And this is a splendid image in the Bible when Abraham established the alliance with God, it is exactly this ritual that happens. He chops in two parts the animals, and then God, like a fire, in the beginning, and when the sun set, God passed through the animal like a fire. And in that moment, the contract is made, the contract between Abraham and God. But it is a blood contract, it's a terrible contract. So, trust is a word which is related to a constellation of meanings, which are the most important is probably truth, but then there is faith, belief, contract, agreement, and penalties for not respecting the contract. What is happening today in the information society? In the information society, we do not trust only in people. More and more, we trust in technology, in systems. And the trust toward systems and technology is mixed to trust towards people. In other way, one situation, one consideration reinforces the other or weakens the other. In practice, if you look at this cycle, you see very well how the trust cycle works today. We have brand, technology, human infrastructure, the three elements. They are equally important. And trust should flow through these three elements. If the flow is stopped, the entire system doesn't work any longer. And then you could see what happened in a particular situation, which is the situation of Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, and this is the paper published in 2009, the idea behind Bitcoin, the main driver behind Bitcoin was exactly the need to overcome trust in the monetary system. And the reason, the immediate reason was that the whole system is today based on purely a trust structure. The fiat money, the money which are not backed by any commodity, by any solid, concrete value, are backed only on by government, by trust that you have in a government. So they are very weak in nature. This is the idea behind Bitcoin. And moreover, the whole structure is a structure which is weak. If you consider, this is the famous quantitative easing, which is the system through which the European Central Bank and the EU and the US Federal Reserve try to push economy. If you look at this cycle, is a pure empty cycle. It is based only on trust, but there is no real values but trust which circulate. And indeed, many commentators have observed that this is a Ponzi scheme. And sooner or later, the economy, the world economy, is going to collapse because it's not based on anything. It's a pure circulation of words and trust. But if the circle stops, the system collapses. And the blockchain, which is the technology which underlie the innovation, which underlies the Bitcoin, is exactly the attempt to overcome this situation. I guess that most of you, all of you, know roughly how the blockchain works, so I will not waste time to tell you, but basically, what is the idea? The idea is to substitute to trust a chain of transaction which cannot be attacked, time-stamped, and consequently, you could trace back what happened in the whole system in any moment. In that sense, you could always prove that someone has the ownership of a certain amount of Bitcoin. This has posed several problems. One of the main problems in Europe is the compatibility of the blockchain technology with the so-called right to be forgotten. Maybe you know that in the reform, the proposal of reform of data protection directive in the European Union, which is going to be enacted probably in 2016, there is this crazy principle that there is a right to be forgotten, which is nice to be claimed, but completely unpractical and impossible to be enforced in the internet, in my opinion. I'm really curious to see what is going to happen when they will try really to apply this principle. As a matter of fact, this principle is in open contrast, in open conflict with the idea of the blockchain. The blockchain can be used in many other applications. Consider that any contract, any online transaction can be certified by using the blockchain. In particular, there are two potential disruptive applications that to me are much more interesting than the Bitcoin. One is the possibility to use the blockchain as an enabling technology for the Internet of Things, to allow a direct transaction between machines without the need of a human intermediary, a middleman. And another very interesting application, which is linked to Mia Arbit's presentation, to the previous presentation, is the possibility to use the blockchain to guarantee identities. You know, we are today in a very crazy situation in which personal identities, identifiers, are basically guaranteed by a chain which starts from the birth certificate and arrives till the passport, the national identity card, or whatever else. But the big issue is that in 2/3 of the world, this chain is not secure at all. The birth certificate is not secure at all, and then there is not a guarantee that from the birth certificate to the passport that you have actually in your hands, nothing happens. So the blockchain could solve this problem. It is extremely interesting. Overall, if you consider the blockchain technology is part of a larger, a wider wave of mistrust toward national and international institutions and governance, various governance situations. It's a wave that involved politicians, progressively politicians, political parties, trade unions, international organizations, and so on, and so on, and so on, and so. And it is a global wave, and it is a wave that is intertwined with another wave, which is the wave of conspiracy theories. We are in a period, conspiracy theories have always been existed, of course. But we are in a period in which they are really flourishing everywhere, through the internet in particular. And they concern specifically the financial sector. There is a nice, very amusing theory claimed by a professional conspiracy theorist, David Icke, which is about the financial, the governance of the economic system. The world economic system should be ruled by a bunch of extraterrestrial people, the reptilians, which include Queen Elizabeth II, Mario Draghi, and Bob Hope. I never understood why Bob Hope, not Jerry Lewis, for instance. But David Icke has published bestsellers. There are many people who go listen his conferences, and is very popular in the internet. But there are some paradoxes if you look with attention, carefully. On one side, this approach, these theories are that we should resist globalization, technology should help us to resist global elite, and the blockchain is a democratic technology. On the other hand, the innovation supported by this technology it should be, in theory, a nightmare for anti-global people, because it is the idea of a unique global currency, the idea of a unique global ID. And this is the same for trust. Again, Satoshi Nakamoto's sentence is the sentence with which he or she handled her paper. We have proposed a system for electronic transaction without relying on trust, but as a matter of fact, it is enough to look at the system and you immediately realize there are at least two critical trust acts that you have to do. The first one is to trust in the integrity of the mathematical formula, and the second is to trust that the majority of the nodes of the blockchain is made by honest people and not by hackers. As a matter of fact, both assumptions are not demonstrated. The first one, the mathematical formula, I think that the largest majority of people using Bitcoin cannot understand a line of that formula. And you cannot assess whether it is robust or not. No one is able to do. And actually, the Interpol says, no, it is not robust at all. And if you go to consider the nodes of the blockchain, you look that there are very few pools of people, of miners, who control the whole system. We believe they are honest people. But it is a trust statement. It is, if they are not honest, the whole blockchain can be hacked in any moment. And this is one first point. Usually, those who want to eliminate trust end up by increasing the need for trust. unwittingly, unawarely, but this is their result, the opposite they claimed they wanted to achieve. Why it is impossible to eliminate trust? There is a deep human philosophical reason why it is not possible to eliminate trust. First of all, the reason is that because we live in time, we live in the flow of time. We need to plan the future, but the future is by definition probabilistic. At least for our point of view, maybe it is deterministic according to God or Leibniz or whatever else, but for us, it's probabilistic. So we have to gamble on the future. Of course, with some reason, not a blind gamble, but we have to gamble. Even the present. I trust that I'm not in an hospital having hallucination. Huh? On the contrary, I will be very idiot to stay here. But as a matter of fact, it doesn't take the card to understand that I cannot have a certainty that I'm not dreaming in this moment. Even the past memories come on. We reinvent continuously the past, as in individuals, as collective, as a community. The past is an invention, is a narrative of the present. So we need to trust. No possibility, no alternative. And this is, and we could go back to the beginning of my presentation, the relationship between truth and trust. It is very, very strict. And of course, there is an endless discussion about truth in the Western philosophy. I don't want it, it would be ridiculous to even mention it. But I want just to propose you an image. The image, maybe you remember the old myth, the old legend, the old paradox of Achilles and the tortoise. Achilles ran, but he can never get the tortoise because in any fraction of moment of second in which he approximates the tortoise goes ahead. And so it is an infinitesimal run, but the gap cannot be filled, never. This is the truth. The truth is the tortoise. The truth exists. We run behind the truth, but we can't catch it up. And you could see it very well speaking of value. What is the value? Ideally, in principle, the value is the God and the good. Happiness, beauty, love, eros, richness, well-being, truth. Could you define these values? No. Could you reach this value? No. They are a sort of far point we are searching to reach. And we have, all human civilization, have taken the sun to symbolize this. The sun is the symbol of the good, because the light, the heat, source of life, warm, vision, and the gold. The gold is the light of the sun embedded in the earth, shine like the sun, but it is in the earth. And then you take something which is the opposite of the gold, the paper, which is opaque, which degrades very easily, and you turn the paper into the symbol of the value. And then you start dematerializing the paper. Electronic money, cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies are again the light. Electromagnetic impulses, electromagnetic waves like the light. The circle, again, is closed. What does it mean? the deepest reason we cannot avoid trust is that what values never values in itself, but it needs always to be backed by something else. We exist and we value because we are supported. No one is self-sufficient. So it is true that trust implies vulnerability. And this is the reason why people try to avoid trusting, because they are aware that trusting means to become more vulnerable. But there is no alternative. The vulnerability of trust is the same vulnerability of life. It is unavoidable. And those who dream to eliminate trust from any situation, life, business, finally, they just relocate trust from some actors to other actors. And this is not always a wise policy. Sometimes you go in a worse situation. Why happens so? I think that one of the reasons is related to the internet. I showed you, I mentioned conspiracy theory. I think that the internet is made in such a way which makes easier to develop paranoid fantasies. First of all, because it's virtual structure, which gives you the impression to be in a sort of dream. Second, because of visibility, which stimulates fantasy of spying and being spied. And finally, because the web structure, which somehow suggests a hidden and concealed network of people. At the end of the story, trust is a sort of mirror. And what do you see if you look into a mirror? What does the mirror reflect? The mirror reflects yourself, but not your true yourself. Mirrors reflect an inverted yourself. And usually you think to recognize yourself, but you are misled. There are different faces in the mirror. Some of them are yours, but you do not recognize them. So the question I would like to pose you now, and I'm going to conclude my speech. Could you trust in yourself? Could we trust in ourselves? Huh? The own goal syndrome. Who is free from this syndrome? There are people, poor people, which are really oppressed by the own goal syndrome. But even more lucky people who have not this kind of persecution, oppression, but maybe in your business life, maybe in your private life, maybe in your amorous love affairs, maybe in your family, but no one could really say, I've never been experienced the own goal syndrome. No. Every one of us knows very well that this syndrome exists. It is very dangerous. And it's not only dangerous for individuals. Also organizations can suffer from the own goal syndrome, which is one of the worst disasters for organization, the own goal syndrome. What happened? When we distrust other agents, we often end up trusting too much in ourselves. When we trust too much in ourselves, we stop defending ourselves from ourselves. And one of the major risk and mistake that a human being can do is to trust in himself and give up the main instrument, the main tool we have to protect ourselves, which is a reasoned trust in others and in the world. You could imagine like as there were a spider, a dangerous spider, concealed remotely in us. He's waiting. He's waiting the right moment to strike. And it is never, never wise to remain alone with this spider. So I started my presentation with the question, should we still trust in the online world? My answer is yes, 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 absolutely. We need trust in the online world, still more than in the past, probably, because of the peculiar structure of the online world. Trust is not a sign of weakness. Trust is not a gambling. Of course, weakness and gambling are unavoidably part of trust. You can't escape. They are elements of trust. But they are not the essence of trust. The essence of trust is to be an important, a significant instrument, tool to face, to deal with challenges posed by life, and to try to mitigate risk of self-victimization, of own goal syndrome. Now, you could pose the question about what is a reasoned trust in others, but I think that the time is over, so this question remains suspended. Try yourself to find the right answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much.